Hi.
Hi.
I'm Patty Jones. I'm here today with Brant Standridge. He is the owner and founder of Enforcement Lighting,
Correct.
LLC.
Yep.
And they do all the lighting and graphics. I'm going to let him tell you about it for several counties. He's here in Blaine. His office is here in Blaine, but he does several different law enforcement communities. So tell me how you got started.
We started our company, was kind of loosely started in 2006, 2007, where basically I was working in rural Minnesota, and I had previously worked for a company that upfitted or built police cars. And I started just kind of helping out with other agencies building their cars that were not in the best of shape, or they maybe weren't put together the right way. And ultimately got to the point where we just started doing it. I started doing it more permanently. I had an agency come to me and say, "You do such a good job working on our cars. Do you want to just build our next car?" And I was like, "Sure." And we had a friend of mine, and him and I started it, and it kind of just, it was fun. Mm-hmm. And I think I always tell people, like, if you have fun doing your job, does it really work? So we had fun doing it. It was a lot of fun. And it just kind of spiraled from there. We don't do a lot of advertising. Everything's pretty much word of mouth. And within the law enforcement community, it just kind of gets out that you do good work, or, you know, I've always kind of stood on the platform that we build police cars. We're cops building cars for cops. And I think that's a big thing that's helped our company. And so we've been doing it. We got incorporated as an LLC in 2009. Was a business that we ran out of our home in St. Francis for many years. We finally got to the point where we billed for, I think the last time I figured it out, I'd have to probably sit down and count it again, but I think we billed for about 28 different agencies across the state of Minnesota.
Wow.
So we have agencies all the way down to southeastern Minnesota, the city of Lewiston, all the way up to northern Minnesota for the city of Hibbing, and the East Range Police Department, all the way out west to the Upper Sioux Tribal Police, as well as several agencies within the metro area. So, like I said, I'd have to sit and figure it out again, but I think it's about 28 different agencies across the state of Minnesota that we provide vehicles for.
Wow.
So, and it's one of those things where we, coming from a law enforcement background, I've always tried to, knowing that budgets are budgets, and we want to be budget conscious because they're tax dollars. Mm-hmm. And so, being cognizant of that, we've always tried to provide the niche term would be the best bang for the buck. Where can we take your dollars? I've never asked an agency to give me more money than they budgeted for. This is your budget, and let's see what we can do to make that budget go as far as we can. Can we get you extra product? Can we do better features? What can we do to make that dollar you have that you put in your budget X amount of years ago? What can we do to make that better? What can we do to make it go farther? Mm-hmm. And that's something we've always tried to pride ourselves on. Having 24 years of law enforcement experience, I'm a big advocate of officer safety. I'm a big advocate for making sure that the officers who are driving our cars have enough adequate light to respond to calls, and when they get to that call, is it safe for them to get out? Are we providing the right things that they need to do their job? And so that's kind of always one of those things we've done. And then obviously we started working for different agencies within the fire service. So we started doing trucks for fire departments for, respond vehicles and grass rigs and things like that. And same thing, like we try to kind of say, okay, these are, for the most part, they're volunteer firefighters. They're not driving these vehicles every day. Mm-hmm. So how can we make sure that when they sit in a fire barn for 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 days, maybe weeks, that when they need that vehicle and they get in and they hit the key, that it's going to start. Mm-hmm. And it's going to do what we need it to do, and they're not going to have any failures, because when you're responding to a fire, that's not the time you need your equipment to fail. So, so we've tried to make things safeguards and things like that we're making sure we're providing the best service we can. And of course, it's spawned into other things within. We do a lot of vehicles for security companies. We do vehicles for landscaping companies and snow removal companies and things like that, to make sure that when they're out doing their jobs, same thing. I had a couple years ago, we did 4 vehicles for a landscaping company, and the gentleman came in and says, we do a lot of work down in the Minneapolis metro area. And he said, there's a lot of times we can't pull into driveways. Our trailers are big and we have to park on the street. And he goes, some of these streets they're not safe.
Yeah.
And so we installed lights on trailers. So when their employees were loading and unloading the equipment, they had flashing lights to indicate that they were there to make it safer for them. So it's things like that we've always done, and we've always tried to pride ourselves on when a vehicle or a piece of equipment leaves here, we look at it and go, if that was mine, I would absolutely feel comfortable, doing my job with the piece of equipment that's on there. And so it's kind of filtered into that. And in the midst of doing that, we've tried to transition into other things that not only help the public safety community, but also into things that the average, citizen driving around there can do. So we've started kind of branching off into things like auto starts. We found that we were doing it for a lot of law enforcement vehicles, especially agencies that had like canines and things like that. You want to start that car, get it nice and warm before the dog goes out there. There's $20,000-$30,000 worth of equipment on these cars. They want to make sure that they're running, and so we realized that, well, if we're buying these auto starts anyway, why not provide that service to others? And when we noticed the profit margins that were being made on some of these items, we were like, we can provide this product. It's the same exact product you can get somewhere else, but it's in some cases $100, $200 less expensive. And why couldn't we provide that same service and provide people a good quality product that you can buy at a larger store, right, but at a lesser cost? Things like that people don't normally think about doing with their vehicles. Like we provide window tinting, and there's a lot of people out there that have issues with sun, they get headaches, migraines, things like that, and they get prescriptions to be able to have their windows tinted darker than what's legally allowed. There's a lot of companies out there that can do it, and we've seen some of it, but it's the quality. I've always told people that I'm a firm believer you get what you pay for. And I certainly understand that there's some companies out there that take advantage of that, but I also think that there's ways of providing products for people at a reasonable cost where everybody becomes, everybody's happy walking away. I can do wind. There's not a huge margin in window tint. You don't make a lot of money. There's what you buy it for and what it takes to put it on. You're not, there's not hundreds of dollars in there. Right. But if it's $20 less, but I can provide a better product and I can do it in a quicker amount of time. I look at some of my competitors that are out there and they're charging $300, $400, $500 to do a couple windows on a vehicle. And I thought, well, that's why a lot of people aren't doing it. It's so expensive. And then when I started working with another company, and they were a little bit less expensive, and then I started realizing if we do it, if we provide this service, can we do it less expensive? And there are certainly companies out there that will do it for less than what we do. I've long-standingly said there are many cases where we're not the cheapest, but we also stand behind the product. We stand behind the product that we're putting on your car. We stand behind the efforts and the labors that go into building that car, regardless of the service. And so I want people to walk away and feel that not only did they get a fair price, but what we did changed. If they have an expectation that's here, I always want it to be here. Yeah. I always, the ever famous, under promise, over deliver. Yeah. I love that because I've got customers that come in, like one of the things that we do, and it's just something we do, right? If we have time, it's not every car, but if we have time to do it, every car that comes in, we wash it before it goes out. That's nice. Wash it, clean it, put a little tire shine on it, and you may have came in for, an auto start and window tint, but when you come pull up to get your car, it's sitting out front and it's shiny and it's clean and it's sparkly and just that sense of like, we care about what we're doing.
Yeah, you take pride.
And I always preference and I say, we don't wash every car. I wish I had the time to wash every car.
Right.
We don't.
Right.
But definitely we try.
Yeah.
I mean, if we've got some free time, if there's nothing going on, if we don't have 3 other appointments booked up,
right.
We try to provide in this. But we still will take and go and we kind of clean things up. Because I want that customer to come in and go, I want them to leave here knowing that even though we do a large majority of what we do is public safety vehicles and law enforcement vehicles, that we have no problem taking that time to handle that customer. That I always look at it this way. In this industry of what we do of auto starts and window tint and running boards, and we don't do a ton of accessory stuff, but the stuff we do, I look at it this way, just like I do with the cities, right? If someone has taken the time to come to us and entrust us with their vehicle because they want window tint, that's their car and that's their money. And so they had to work somehow to get that money. And so I want to make sure that to us, it's throwing some film on a window. To us, it's soldering a few wires, doing a little programming, and push a button so your car starts. That's what it is to us. Mm-hmm. But to them, that's their car, and that's their transportation. Mm-hmm. That's in some cases, that's their baby. Mm-hmm. And so I want to make sure that when people choose to invest in us, that we also show that we're investing in them, because I don't ever want anybody as a one-time customer. Mm-mm. I bring up some of the law enforcement agencies. We have agencies that they're smaller agencies. They only get a car every 3, 4, 5 years. Mm-hmm. But when we're the ones that they don't even think of talking to anybody else,
right?
We're clearly doing something right.
Yes.
That 5 years later they call us and say, "Yep, time for another car."
Right.
And they're 4 hours away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do take pride in that. I take I do a step back and go, yeah, we're providing a service that people take pride in. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to have that. And I think you have to kind of have that empathy and that compassion for even our customers' vehicles, mm-hmm. right? We know these are police cars. Mm. One of the things, one of the services that we also kind of provide, that's what we're just talking about, especially with our smaller agencies, our chiefs, the police chiefs, they don't necessarily want to deal with ordering the car and making sure it's got the right options and make sure it's got the right features and how do I get this, but I don't get that, and I don't want to overpay. And so one of the things that we've started to do with some of our customers is we've kind of taken on a fleet management role. Whereas we will come in once a month and kind of go through their fleet. But we know things that like, hey, this car needs an oil change. Mm-hmm. But we'll go through all the cars and make sure all the lights work, make sure the camera system works, make sure that the computer turns on, make sure that the printer's working properly, making sure that it's basically road ready for that officer mm-hmm. anytime they get in that car. Mm-hmm. And we go out once a month and just kind of go through the fleet. Right now, the agencies we do it for are much smaller. They have 2-3 cars.
Sure.
But the police chiefs are like, I don't know what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. And when we have a handful of officers that drive this car every day, none of them really take the time to go, oh, hey, that one light isn't working right.
Right.
And so what we've kind of done is we've kind of put ourselves in a position to say, we'll come out, we'll monitor your fleet. When you need a new car or you say, hey, I've gotten the budget for a new car, what do I get? We'll lay out for you, this is how much a Ford Explorer costs. This is how much a Dodge Durango costs. This is how much an F-150 costs. We'll lay out for you like the costs that go into that. And then you can make an educated, we don't make the decision on what you're getting.
No.
We'll certainly lay out for you your options, your features, and what it is. And then we essentially will order the car for them. And then once the car's ordered, we'll handle it once it comes in. And we've always prided ourselves on being kind of a one-stop shop. So what we are is when that new vehicle shows up, when it leaves here, it will have the stickers on the side. It'll have the radio. Mm-hmm. It'll have the computer. It'll have all the emergency equipment that it needs to be. So when it rolls out, it's ready to go on the road. That's the other thing that was frustrating when I was starting out in my law enforcement career, is that we'd get a new car and it would get delivered to the police department, and everybody was so excited.
Mm-hmm.
But then now what do you do with it?
Yeah.
So then they'd go to the one shop and they would put the emergency lights on it, and we'd come back and well, we can drive it. No, it's got to go get the stickers on it. So then it would go to another company and it would get the graphics put on, and then it would come back and we'd say, okay, now we can drive it. And they go, no, now it's got to go to the radio shop.
Oh my goodness.
And have the radio installed. So then we'd go to the radio shop and they'd install the radio, and then they'd come back and now we can drive it.
Yeah.
Nope, now it's got to go to IT so they can install the computer system in it and program the camera system. And so there were so many stops along the way before that brand new car got put into service that it gets really frustrating.
Yeah.
And especially if you are a smaller agency that doesn't have a lot of cars, sometimes getting that car in service is really important.
Yeah.
If you're a bigger agency that's got 20 cars,
Right.
it's a new car.
Sure.
But if you're a smaller agency that you rely on that car, and especially if we have to take a car out of service to get the radio and the camera and all that other stuff out of it, now you're even more shorthanded.
Right.
So the big thing that my wife and I talked about when we kind of got this company launched was, we want to be a one-stop shop. We want to be, we'll take your old car and we'll coordinate with one of the graphics companies. If it's not one that we use, we'll coordinate with them. We'll either bring it to them and have them put the stickers on, or we'll have them come here. I see stickers, graphics.
Yeah.
But we'll come here and have them put them on here. Yeah. So there, at some point, there's times that we'll have 2-3 different vendors that are in here doing things that we can make sure that when this car goes out the door, it is ready for the agency to literally put their medical bag in the back and hit the road. Yeah. So that's one thing we've always kind of tried to do. And same thing, we have like I said, a couple of years ago we had a landscaping company. We did 4 trucks for them, and the guy says, I really like to put our logo on the side of the truck. And he's like, I just don't know where to get that done. And I said, do you have a copy of your logo? And he goes, yeah. So email it to me. And he said, okay. He emailed me his logo. I sent it over to our graphics company, and I said, can you recreate this? And they said, absolutely. And I said, I need 4 trucks, so 8 doors. Yeah. And I said, these are the vehicles, and it's, and he said, okay. So we had the whole thing produced and done. We were just finishing up the cars. The graphics company came out. They installed the graphics. Nice. He comes out, and he didn't realize that we had actually done that. So he had made the suggestion, hey, I'd like to have this on our car. I'd like to have my logo on the truck. Okay. So he shows up, and we got all 4 trucks lined up, and all 4 of them brand new white Ford pickup trucks. Yeah. But all 4 of them had his logo. It had like a green oak tree.
Oh, that's really nice.
In the brown, and then it had his name and the phone number. Yeah. And he showed up, and he's like, that's my logo. And I go, that is your logo. Yeah. How did you do that? I said, remember when I asked you to email me your logo? And he goes, yeah. And I go, there you go. There
you go.
So
that's great. You go above and beyond.
Well, we try. Yes. There's certain things you can do and certain things you can't, and you have to be mindful of people's budgets. Right. So in that particular case, because it was a very basic design, the graphics company only charged me about, I think it was $50 to set it up. So it was pretty reasonable. Yeah. And now that design's done for him. So anytime he needs to get that done, he can call that company and they'll make it in any size he wants. Yeah. Some cases you get other companies that have more intricate designs, and it can be several $100s to recreate that. Yeah. So maybe that's something we have to get the customer involved and say, listen, we can do this for you, but there's an expense that's involved. We always want to be mindful of budgets. The first thing I always tell people is, and it's on the law enforcement side, it's always, well, what's your quote? Well, what's your quote? And my response always is, where do you need to be? I'm very mindful of people's budgets. And so when people come in and say, well, how much is to put lights on my truck? The next words out of my mouth are going to be, well, what do you want to spend? Because I have businesses that we do $2,000, $3,000. And I have businesses that'll do $15,000, $18,000. Right. And I have no problem spending I have no problem having the $2,000 customer. Right. Because those customers, a lot of times, have more appreciation because they have one truck, they drive it every day, and they need it to do what they need to do. But we certainly love our customers that come in and say, I've got 4 trucks and I need all this stuff done and I only have this much money per truck. That's fair.
Yeah.
So let us take your budget and make it work for you.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of what we do. And, we've been here in Blaine for 8 years now. I just think we want to make sure we're accessible to people. I don't want to be, like I said, I live in St. Francis, and that's not close for a lot of people. And so we knew that. Like I know there were customers that wouldn't drive to St. Francis to have an auto start done or to have window tinting done because it's just maybe a little bit farther out of that bubble that they want. Not that it's far away.
I know.
But it's just that whole where I'm in Blaine and I'm like, we're pretty centrally located.
Yes.
And we try to make sure that we're catering to our customer schedules. We had a project we did. A lady wanted to have some underbody lights put on her son's Jeep for it was kind of a gift to him for him doing so well in school. And the problem is that he needed the vehicle Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And so there was really no time for us to do it. And it was a pretty extensive project. My team and I sat down, we had a conversation, and 2 of my guys offered to come in on a Saturday and do it.
Oh, nice.
So we always try to make sure, and it's not always, but you try to do those things we're a family-based company.
Right.
My wife and I started this business, and she's always encouraged me to make sure that we're not losing that foundation of who we are, making sure we're taking care of people.
Service.
It's not always about the dollar. It's about making sure that, people are leaving here feeling better than what they did.
Yeah.
And there's times we had an older lady, I'll put it. I don't want to say elderly, but she came in and she needed some work done. And we did some window tint on the car, and we noticed that it was an older car. And we noticed that the headlights were extremely dim. And I thought, someone who has trouble seeing at night would definitely have trouble driving this car. And so my shop manager said, let's put some upgraded headlights in this car. And I said, that's a great idea. And so we upgraded the headlights. We put LED headlights in there. She came in and I said, this is what we did. If you don't want them, we'll take them out. And I said, I'll sell them to you at our price, because it wasn't something we talked about doing beforehand. And she said, well, I'm not sure. And I said, I'll tell you what, take the car. You come back in a week. If you don't like them, we'll take them out. If you do like them, this is what they cost. And she said, okay. She came back 2 weeks later, and not only did she have a check for what I told her the lights would be, but she also brought the guys in the back a plate of cookies.
Oh, how nice.
That she had made.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that we do. And then
you care about the community.
Yeah, it's we care about the community. We want to make sure we're not a big box. We're not a retail.
Right.
I know I'm not going to have customers lined up front to do some of the things that we do. So I want to make sure that because we don't do a lot of advertising, but just for us, it's just the investment in advertising, the return on it just so little that we want to make sure that a lot of what we do is word of mouth. So when you leave here, I need you to say good things about us.
Right.
I need you to recommend us.
Yeah.
I need you to make sure that people know that, you might not need this service, but someday if you do, it's always good to have a guy.
Yeah.
Right? I know a guy. Right?
Yeah.
And so I just want to make sure that if that situation ever comes up, that someone goes, I was thinking about getting my windows tinted, that they go, 2 years ago, I went to this little shop in Blaine, and these folks were so nice, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want that to be what the people leave with.
Absolutely.
And I think the stigmatism we run into is that because our company is enforcement lighting.
Right.
And we do a lot of lighting, that all we do is law enforcement and public safety vehicles. And I don't know how to change that because I really like the name of my company.
Yeah, the name's great. Yeah.
But I also want to make sure that people know, there is so much more that we do. And that we do have a large civilian side of things that we do. There's things, we've had people come in and we've done window tints on fish houses, campers, things like that.
Yeah.
So we do things like that. we actually had a customer come in one time. He's a long-term customer with the police department. He came in and says, "This might be a long shot, but can you rewire my boat trailer?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I went to my shop manager and I said, "Is this something we could?" And he goes, "Absolutely." So we rewired his entire boat trailer. We put new LED lights on it. The whole it turned out very nice. And I was like, "Look at that! There's something we can do." So there's stuff like that. So we try to do more of a kind of a specialty thing. But yeah, I mean that's kind of who we are, what we do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's great. I love what you do. I've learned so much today.
Well, good.
And I'm excited. I need to get my husband here to get sideboards on his truck.
I'll send you home with a book. If you want to.
I do. I want one. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.